Hi there, and thanks for tuning in for another episode of Inside F&M Wrestling. I'm Brad Weltman here for GoDiplomats.com. Sitting down today with head wrestling coach Mike Rogers, and we've got special guest Aaron Moldoff here with us. So guys, thanks a lot for sitting down here with us. Really appreciate it. Yep. So jump right into things with the Pitt duels on Saturday. Your team went 1-2. You took down Davidson by 32-6 score. Faced really tough competition. It's kind of been the same all year long. Just really quality opponents on your schedule. And your team performed well. You won 15 out of the 30 bouts. Took on Columbia, number 20 Pitt. So there looks to be a lot of improvement kind of throughout the lineup. Just talk about how you guys performed on Saturday and who stood out for you.
Yeah, no, I think it was a great event for our guys. We kind of wrestled three different teams. Davidson and then Columbia is in our conference, so that's a good team to see. And then Pitt's a nationally ranked team. So we got a good variety of three different teams that we could wrestle against. And I think overall, our guys did a great job with our conditioning and our training. I think that's really coming around. I think our guys are starting to wrestle better late. Which is what you're looking for. We're doing better things. One of our issues have always been, getting off the bottom and getting off. It's still a problem that we got to address, but we're doing a better job of putting ourselves in positions to score off the bottom and even on top. So our mat wrestling, I think, is really improving since last year last time out, and even back in November up until this point. So we've had a lot of improvement, a lot of growth. Our guys are looking better and better every time they go out. And like you mentioned before, and I said, this from the very first interview, that we put together the toughest schedule, I think arguably in F&M's history, at least since I've been here. And we know going into these matches that some of these matches are gonna be really, really challenging. And I think they're getting a little bit we call hardened to it. Like they're not wrestling a national ranked guy or a guy from a big school or whatever. It's not such a big deal anymore. It's just another guy out there wrestling in front, that they're trying to compete against. And they're starting to know that if they push the pace and execute the techniques and wrestling the match in their style of wrestling, things could fall in their favor. So we're starting to see some confidence, I think, starting to merge up, and that's making a big impact throughout the whole lineup.
Yeah, and talk about a tough schedule. It only gets harder from here. But first, let's talk, Aaron. You just returned to competition about 2 weeks ago. Competed at David H. Lehman F&M Open, and then on Saturday you went 2-1 at the Pitt duels. Unfortunately, injuries have played a large role in your career. You said you can't count the number of surgery you've had on two hands. Just kind of talk a little bit about battling back from your recent series of injuries.
Right. Yeah. It feels so good to be back. I remember my first match back. I just right before I shook hands, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting to do this again. With the injuries thing, I think what I realized and why I kind of came back, it's such a huge mindset thing. It's I kind of felt bad for myself. I kind of let them get in my head, and once that happens, it's all downhill. So coming to this year, talking to Coach Rogers, Coach Childs, and my support system, I was ready to come back. I kind of saw what the competition was like out at nationals. I didn't think they're out of my league or anything, just my mindset. So I decided my injury situation is what it is. I've got about 365 days from when I decided to come back, because I decided to come back at when I was out watching nationals, and Coach Childs was kind of in my ear telling me to come back. So I realized that it is what it is, and if I just work my butt off and listen to the coaches, that I knew I could get where I want to be and get that All-American status. So just trying to get my mindset on straight and trying to get the hard work to pay off.
Yeah, and it looks like it's paying off. You kind of hit the mat running on Saturday. You opened with a 17-2 tech fall against Davidson, 15-1 major decision against Columbia. So just kind of walk us through that performance. Yeah,
like I said, I went out there and I was just so excited. It's bad, but I was so overexcited the night before. I couldn't really get to sleep because I was just I wanted to get out there so bad. And so when I went out there against that Davidson kid, I was just all right, this has been two and a half years, whatever, since I wrestled in the making. Let's go out there and put points on the board. And that's what I try to do. I try to stay connected with my corner. I know, especially with my year off, I definitely know the coaches see things that I don't really see. So I always try to stay connected and see what they want me to do and try to listen. And it really does pay off. And then I think my top wrestling it's probably my strongest place right now, but it can definitely be improved if I want to get those turns on top level guys. So the tech fall and the major is just I'm trying to see where I can build off from there. Like if those are my strengths, then how can I make them stronger? And also, obviously, if I got to make my weaknesses my strengths too. So they were big wins, but nothing I want to hold on to. I've got to beat those top guys.
Yeah, then you kind of have an interesting perspective on things maybe compared to some of your teammates, because even though you sat out the last year, you were still heavily involved in the team. You were kind of a student coach, involved in a lot of behind the scenes stuff with the program. So just kind of talk about that experience and what you learned from that.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience. It kind of made me who I am right now. Coach Rogers kind of gave me the opportunity to kind of step up and help out however I could. And that meant doing some of the coaching responsibilities, the video, even like one-on-one sessions. So I was with him, I was with Coach Childs, I was with Coach Borgia. And I tried my best just to kind of just be a sponge and just try to learn from everyone. I was also with Law Wrestling. It's the club that works out in our team. And Coach Will, he kind of like took me on and kind of mentored me and told me how to be a youth coach. So I had that experience. And I was learning from some of the best college coaches in the nation about like the small points and adjustments that I could make and how to coach and come across to the wrestlers. So like being in the corner with these guys and hearing their perspective on the match and stuff, it's just like that's kind of what helped me see that anybody can beat anybody. You know, like you hear these rankings and all that stuff, and it kind of gets in your head. But when you go out there, it's just one guy against another guy, and kind of seeing how you can adjust against him. So that's kind of like the perspective I got from the coaching. It's just like, again, it goes back to the mindset thing. Coaches think their guys can beat anybody. And if the wrestlers buy into that, then you're going to get good results. And that's kind of like one thing that I really try to pick up from.
Is coaching something you can see yourself doing after college?
Oh yeah, it's definitely something I want to pick up on. Like, I've always said my goal was to kind of like become like a helper for this program for the rest of my life. If that means like being a coach here, coaching at the youth level, or even at the high school level. Like I want to be able to help out F&M for the future.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've been around the sport all your life. You started wrestling at the age of 5, along with your older brother. Your dad's always played a large role in being your coach, and you said he's been your role model.
Right.
Does wrestling just kind of run the family?
It's kind of like it became a family affair. So I was 5 years old when me and my brother brought home a flyer from school, and my dad, who just when he was a kid, he was like, "Hey, do you guys want to do this?" And my brother said yes, and to me, I was 5 years old, so in my head, I was picturing like WWE wrestling with the chairs and jumping around, so I was like, heck yeah, that sounds awesome, sign me up. Like, I want to beat kids up. And then I went to my first practice, learned quickly that isn't what it was, but I became hooked, and now it's kind of like a family thing. Like, we discuss it all the time, kind of like wrestle in the kitchen, kind of go over moves and technique and stuff, so it's definitely something my family loves now.
And then you were on the same youth team as teammate Rick Dursa?
Yeah, me and Rick, he actually grew up in my town. I've known Rick since I was 5 years old, so seeing Rick in college, like, it's no surprise that he has success. He's always been the same kind of guy, same flexible, athletic kind of guy. So he was kind of the connecting point that got me here, because his high school coach was my youth coach as well. So then he introduced me to Coach Rogers at the Drexel meet, and here I am 4 years later.
Great. And then, Mike, we've got the conferences, arguably the top team in the IWA coming up Saturday. Number 8, Lehigh, comes to Mayser. That's a program that fans always seem to kind of travel well for. So what are you expecting the atmosphere to be like on Saturday?
I'm sure it's going to be a great environment. Lehigh's a big draw. They're a wrestling name. They're local. They're only, local. I mean, when I say they're about an hour and a half from us. So it's an easy commute drive for their fans. And there's a lot of Lehigh contingents here locally. But also, too, I think our fans want to come out and see us wrestle that competition. So it's not all about Lehigh. It's all about our fans, the F&M supporters want to see us go up against some of the best teams in the country, and we have some of the best teams in the country right around us. So it's going to be a test. It's a measuring stick. That's all it is. We're not focusing on so much wins and losses. It's just how you measure up against a guy that's in front of you. Maybe a guy that's ranked at your weight in your weight class at the conference. Because again, we want to put our hands on the guys that we're going to see as much as we can going into the conference. So Columbia and Bucknell and now Lehigh and so on. We have Harvard and Princeton coming in. So there's all guys that we're going to have to eventually face. So I think the more we wrestle that level of competition, the more our guys see them, regardless of the outcome, we're just going to get better and get more knowledge on how to improve. And that's all we can really ask for. And what we're looking for, our guys, is just to entertain. Go out there, put on a good match. Our people come to watch good aggressive wrestling, regardless of who wins. Even the Lehigh fans appreciate good hard wrestling on either end of it. So we're hoping to come out on top of a lot of those matches, but at the end of the day, it's just going out there and battling and like we said, fighting the fight and go out there and if they're gonna beat us, they're gonna have to earn it. That's our mentality, And if we push a pace, I think we can run with anyone in our conference.
Yeah, and then looking at just some matchups that we're expecting from Saturday. At 141, Lehigh's Randy Cruz, he's the defending EIWA champion at 141, going up against Rick likely. So what's that looking like for Rick? How important of a match is that going to be?
It's important, but it's no more important than any other ones he's been wrestling. I think Rick has wrestled arguably one of his toughest schedules this year. He's wrestled guys from number 2 to number 18 every week. He's going to have a battle. So Cruz is very, very accomplished, very skilled wrestler. I think his style matches up well with Rick. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining match. I think they both like to score points, and they're both, very athletic type wrestlers. So I think it's who's going to wrestle whose style and come out on top of the scrambles. But like I said, Rick has a good perspective. There's no one that we could put in front of Rick that he hasn't seen. From the Midlands this year to last year he's wrestled guys from every conference now, from the Big Ten to ACC to EIWA to EWL. So there's not much that rattles Rick. And actually, Rick is a gamer. The more the pressure, the more hype, the more people are watching, the better he performs. So we really hope this is hyped up. I hope they're excited for it, because that's only going to play in Rick's favor because he's a gamer. So, and again, this is just more information, because if we see him in the conference, we will make the adjustments one way or another. So.
Yeah. So you guys have a lot going on Saturday. If Lehigh wasn't enough, you're also sending some wrestlers to compete at Millersville, Shorty Hitchcock Memorial Open. It's a local tournament. It's always a good opportunity for some of your guys that maybe don't make the lineup to get some work in.
Yeah, it seems like we're always doing double duty, but I think it's important that our guys all compete. So it's motivating. If you're not in the dual meet, you get something to work for, and that's the Open. So whether it's the guys that maybe not be in the lineup, or maybe guys that need to take a step out of lineup and need some more mat time. A dual meet you only get one match, where a tournament you get 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 matches. So we're putting guys that are healthy, that can go out there and compete, because it gets really shallow after that to get to any competition. So and it's local, it's right across right across town. So we'll be over there in the morning, and we'll have 2 coaches there coaching those throughout the day, and then we'll have 2 coaches here coaching the dual meet. And if those guys are done in time, and depends on how quickly that goes, they'll be back in Mayser supporting us. But those guys have our focus of the tournament. The other guys have the focus of the dual meet. So it keeps everyone motivated. Everyone's competing, and that's all good positive energy going into this weekend.
Mike, we always appreciate having you here. Aaron, thanks a lot for joining us. Be sure to join us next week. We're going to recap Lehigh and look ahead to a few more home matches coming up on the schedule.